8, new business, discussion of possible action on 2015 and 2017 operator's license, beginning with Christy Alexandria Fottenson for the Legend at Merrill Hills. Is there a motion?
I'll make the motion that we approve it.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next for Emily Ray Freiberg for Callie's Tap and Eatery. Is there a motion?
I move we approve Emily's operator's license.
Second?
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to B, the request to install a water main in East Broadway right-of-way. This is a request from the city's water department. They want to increase the size of their water main in the area of the map that's been provided in order to increase the pressure and flow. It will benefit some of the town residents in the area that already have city water and sewer.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take a minute to address this issue, if I may.
Please.
Would like to take just a minute to take a trip down memory lane, and I think it has some relevance to the request before us that I will tie in. If you give me just a couple of minutes to trace a bit of history here, which probably many of the people in the room remember. The town of Waukesha has been in discussion for some extended period of time with the city of Waukesha about inclusion in their water service area. It's a topic familiar probably to all. Representations were made previously in writing by Dan Dupniak, the general manager of the Waukesha Water Utility, that town property owners, town residents would be able to connect to municipal water or city water without annexation to the city of Waukesha. That was provided in writing to the town of Waukesha, to the town board. Next step a bit along that way, in January of 2013, the then town board voted to include but a small portion of the town of Waukesha in the water service area. That request had been in our hands for some extended period of time, and basically the town board went as long as we could before making a commitment in that regard. I was the lone supporter of the inclusion of the entirety of the town. The majority of the board, the other 4 members, were opposed to it. Things changed in the spring of 2013, I believe May of 2013. And many of you probably recall that that decision was reversed. And the town was included in its entirety into the water service area. No purpose tonight into traipsing back into all of the good reasons that were put forth, reasons for to do that or not to do it. But part and parcel to that discussion and that reversal of that decision pertains to 2 letters that town board members have in front of you tonight, I think in a packet, and they relate to some discussions and negotiations that occurred between representatives of the town board of the town of Waukesha, which I was not one, and representatives of the city of Waukesha. Part of that history is a letter dated May 25th, 2013 from then City Administrator Ed Henschel to the town board and supervisors, and I believe that was drafted in the context of while these discussions are ongoing. You also have a copy of a single-page letter from Chairman Merrick, which went back to the mayor, the city administrator, and common council, again dated May 22nd, 2013. And the relevant part of all of that, the request that's before us tonight is the town board agreed to accept the letter from City Administrator Henschel of April 25th, 2013, which in essence included inclusion in the town in its entirety, the water service area. The two important things on that the town asked of that or proposed amendments is that annexation of town properties into the city of Waukesha would not be required to obtain water from the city water utility. And likewise, annexation of town property of the city would not be required as a condition of obtaining sanitary sewer service or connection to municipal sanitary sewer. That, as some of you might recall, we had I'll call it an 11th hour modification at the city's insistence. The word always, single word but important word, was put into there, will not always require that. So that opened the door a bit. The relevance of all of that to me at this point in time is I think we might have an opportunity to see if we can strike a cooperative agreement, an intergovernmental agreement with the city of Waukesha. They want something or need something, which is their request before us tonight, as do we. Their request is to extend a water main through town property, and they're seeking our concurrence with that request. We still want, I think, I don't mean to speak for others, you get your chance here in a minute, but would like to bring some clarity to that issue about the need to annex to the city in order to get city water and sewer. There are well over 100 properties in the town of Waukesha right now that are served by city water or city sewer or both, and many of them have been for many, many years. So what I would submit, at least for discussion purposes, that ought to be part of this is, do we have an opportunity? The city's got some new players on their team that weren't there 2 years ago. We've got some new players on our team. Is there an opportunity before us to strike an intergovernmental agreement so that we can give them some of the things they want and need, and we can get what we want and need in return? So I open that up to discussion. I guess it's a suggestion that I think that that should be the posture of this board, to try to see if we can do that in a cooperative way and get to a better working relationship than the city and the town have had with each other for many years.
Supervisor Fisher, what's your suggestion? What are you looking for us to ask the city for? Is it quite simply to remove the word always from our agreement?
That's what I am contemplating. I mean, I would obviously like to hear from you and other members of the board, but that's the direction in which I'm suggesting we at least want to discuss and consider going.
Anybody else have any ideas?
I got a question. Attorney Macy, how are we discussing this without it being on the agenda?
It's on the agenda.
I never got that. When did you send that?
It's the same one.
No, no. All we're talking about is the right way, Main and Broadway.
Right, that's what we're discussing.
That's what we're talking
Now,
about.
I thought we're talking about this agreement of removing always.
No, what we're talking about, Supervisor Wolf, is that we're looking at approving our right-of-way, use of our right-of-way for the city of Waukesha,
Okay.
and in turn, asking for something back from them.
Okay.
Do you have any thoughts on what is that something you'd like to ask them for? Would you support removing the word always from their agreement?
as I understand, we're talking about adding the word, not removing the word.
Well, in fairness, the document that you do have in front of you, it may not have been the final communication on that, but the essence of it was, is that it would not always be required, which left the possibility that it could be provided without annexation. And what I'm suggesting is to have that word always removed, and I guess instead of it, we would say would not be required.
You're not looking at the final iteration of that document,
Yeah.
Supervisor Durr. And what I would suggest is that perhaps we go back to this letter of May 22nd, which doesn't have it in that, and ask that this be our official agreement between the city and the town. That town residents are not required instead of not always required.
I guess I'd have to see the final copy before I'd be able to render a decision as to whether I want to incorporate something into this request. What is the final agreement?
The final agreement was in fact this, with one word, which was, one word added, annexation of the town in the fourth paragraph, annexation of the town property into the city of Waukesha is not required, and what they did is they inserted not always required. Other than that, the agreement remained the same.
So where is that agreement?
Someplace in the office. I don't have it handy.
But the purpose of tonight, just to go to Supervisor Wolf's comment, the purpose of tonight's agreement is, you know what's on the agenda. My recommendation is you give authorization to one of yourselves, I don't care who, don't create a committee, one of yourselves to negotiate with the city over this agreement that's on the agenda in light of the prior agreements, and come back, it should come back, I think you were contemplating it was going to come back, but you need authorization. So you're going down the table saying, what would you be looking for, if anything, if you were to give them permission to put the water main in Broadway?
Yes.
Broadway, what would you want in return, if anything? Because you could vote tonight to just sign it, but your chairman's recommending that you don't, that you go and you say, you want this from us, and one of yourselves should then negotiate with the city to see what, if anything, in return you can get. It's as simple as that, right?
Yes.
And so that's why it's relevant, Supervisor Wolf, because you could vote on it to authorize the president, the chairman to sign it tonight, or you could authorize him or someone else to go negotiate with the city to say, if you want this, what can we get in return? The discussion, as I understand it from the supervisor, was, at the very least, we should allow service, we should strike that word or change that to what was more of your original intent. Is that, am I stating that correctly?
Correct, the place that we were at and thought we were at until the 11th hour when that word was inserted. I guess with that said, so we can move the discussion along, I would move to authorize Chairman Merrick to enter into discussions and negotiations with the City of Waukesha and the City of Waukesha Water Utility and report back to us.
Your second?
I'll second.
Discussion?
I have a question. There's no cost to the town for this, is there?
Zero.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
I'd like to amend that. Could you restate that, please?
I'll ask to have the clerk read it back.
Yeah, could you read that back, please?
To authorize Chairman Merrick to negotiate with the city on what they can, and return with the report. Negotiate with the city on this utility.
It's pretty simple, is to negotiate with the city regarding this agreement and report back.
This agreement being the water main on Broadway. That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Anything further? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. On to C, painting and carpeting in town hall and offices. Mr. Wolf, do you have something? for us on that?
Yes, it was brought up that they want to do some decorating in the town hall and the office. There were 3 prices gotten for painting the 2 rooms, or no, just the 1 room, and the other room is already wallpaper, so they won't be doing that. There were also 3 prices to get carpeting, and there was a price that a company will come in and move the furniture out of the office. They'll carpet the office, move it back in the office, and then reset everything up and buy 1 file cabinet
Yes.
and 1 file cabinet. The lowest prices were $1,300 for painting, $10,143 for carpet, and then $3,158.50 for moving the furniture and buying the file cabinet. And then also there was cleaning chairs. Now is that these chairs, all these chairs also, or just? Okay, I didn't quite understand what the quote said. They're gonna come in and steam clean all the cloth carpeting, cloth chairs in this room and in the office, and that was $750 to steam clean them and to put a protective coating on it. So the full price to do everything was $16,000.
This was one of the things that were in the capital outlay, I think from 2011. And we started looking into that when our carpet started ripping in our office, and this carpet can't be cleaned.
Mr. Chairman, a couple of questions for Supervisor Wolf or otherwise. What information, the carpeting proposal is to remove and replace the carpeting?
Yes, and dispose of it.
Concern that I have is, do we know what is beneath this existing carpeting? Is there old soft tile underneath it or whatever, or do we know?
Kathy, you want to talk on that since you talked to the guy?
We have a portion of the town hall and the office does have some 9x9 tiles underneath it. We don't know exactly how much of it has it. We've looked in a few different places and didn't find any tiles. When I spoke with the carpet gentleman, he has a machine that will go right over the carpet and just take the glue off. He can't say 100% that something might happen, but he's pretty comfortable with doing the project. When we pulled up a couple of places of carpet, it pulled up very easily from the tile, so it wasn't, he didn't think it was going to be an issue.
Here's my concern related to that particular issue. Given the age of this building, other than the roughly 24-foot addition on this end of it goes back to 1958, good likelihood that some of those original flooring materials were asbestos-containing materials. 9x9 tile is usually an indicator of vinyl asbestos tile containing asbestos. Frequently, that tile was put down with adhesives that were asbestos-containing. There's a possibility that there could even be asbestos in the adhesive that this carpeting was put down, that the vinyl base along the walls was put down with. I would not be comfortable and wouldn't support entering into an agreement with somebody to do that unless we had knowledge determination, which would probably take some testing as to where those asbestos-containing materials are. If those are asbestos-containing materials and they are disturbed during the demolition process, we're in a whole lot of trouble.
We haven't done any testing, obviously.
I did not find any testing from the past, and I did not do any testing.
And what kind of carpet are we putting down? Are we putting down bulk carpet or carpet tile?
Carpet tiles.
So Supervisor Fisher, would you support getting some testing done for both the carpet adhesive, the tile, and the tile adhesive?
I think that's absolutely essential.
And then a recommendation of how to address that. Is there, how to encapsulate it? I don't think we want to pull it up. I think we'd rather encapsulate it.
I understand if we can. My concern is, because since it's happened before, we may not want to pull it up. If it's not disturbed, it may not be an issue, but inadvertently, some of that tile may decide to become carpeting instead of stay on the floor. And that's why I think we need to know what we're getting at.
And talking with Kathy, the carpet guy did say that in the section that's possible asbestos, they would pull it up slowly. If anything starts breaking, he would stop, and then we would have to deal with it at that case. Because like you said, if it stays encapsulated, we aren't gonna have a problem. It's gonna be when you pull the carpet up, the tile sticks to the back of the carpet and starts pulling off, then we've got an issue.
I guess I would just point one other thing out, though, Supervisor Wolf. I think with this public facility, I think we need to know for sure that the adhesive that glues the carpeting to the tile is not asbestos containing. I think we absolutely need to know that. I don't think we can take a chance on that.
Well, you can check, but I can't believe, this carpet can't be that old that it's asbestos glue holding the carpet down. It would be the glue holding the tile underneath the carpet, that would be the issue. Because this carpet can't be, 15 years old? They wouldn't have asbestos.
Well, I'm not going to give that kind of assurance, and I don't think we can do that. I would say it's more likely than not that it doesn't have asbestos, but I think the town needs to have that insurance. It's going to cost us, might cost us up to $1,000 or what or not to do it, but I think we need that assurance. I think to do it any other way is not a responsible thing to do in a public facility.
I concur, and I think the last time I had asbestos testing done recently, it was about $30 per sample, so it's not excessive, it's not an excessive cost.
Okay, I just have a quick question. Do they come in and test and take their samples themselves? Because they're gonna have to pull up the tile.
They'll come and they need to take 3 samples of each item we want tested. So if we want tile tested, they'll go to 3 separate spots and take 3 samples, same with carpet, mastic, and same with tile mastic. Do we need a motion, Attorney Macy, to authorize the clerk to go ahead and order testing?
I would, but I'm hesitating only because I'm wondering, are you of a mind to say that that the project is authorized as long as the testing is done and it's successful, or are you planning on bringing it back?
Bringing it back, I'd like to know what's underneath.
I would just add one other thing to it. I think the availability of those funds and so forth, and how we're going to fund it, I think we've got some issues that we have to resolve with how those monies get expended from that capital fund.
Agreed.
I don't think we're there yet either. So that's a second issue.
You could take a motion, or you could just direct her to have the testing done. I think you directed her to get the costs, or Supervisor Wolf to get the costs. And so you could just be a directive to Supervisor Wolf to work with the clerk to get the testing for the discussion and come back with the information. I don't know that you need a motion, if there's consensus that it's a directive.
So be it. Unless there's any disagreement from anybody else? We'll move on to D, Shimoleski Development Financial Assurance Resolution. Engineer Janelli.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you, you should have my letter dated December 18th, in which I am recommending a reduction to Mr. Shimoleski's financial assurance. He has a cash deposit with the town in the amount of $74,000 and change for his extension of Britner Drive. The work that has been completed to date, some ditching, road construction, graveling, grading, and binder course of asphalt has been completed. So a reduction is reasonable. The reduction request of $45,816 I evaluated and seems reasonable as well. So I recommend that reduction be done with a remaining financial assurance of $28,200.80 remaining.
Thank you. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion that we accept the reduction as Mr. Janelli has pointed out, leaving it at $28,200.80.
Second?
I'll second.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And not dead last, but close, is the Tyler Technologies contract. Attorney Macy had some comments on that for us.
Yes, you should all have my letter delivered tonight on February 6th, I believe. It sets forth several items. We have reviewed their contract previously and approved the same with the same comments. And they're here this evening, and I assume, but I don't want to speak for them, that they don't probably have any problem with our comments. Secondly, though, we do recommend, as anyone who's following the governor's budget bill, that you only enter into one-year contract till the government decides what they're going to do. As you may have noticed in the governor's budget bill, he is recommending going to a county-wide assessment. So we're not recommending anybody go into long-term contracts at the moment, but I'm sure these gentlemen will be working hard to make sure that doesn't happen unless they can get all 72 counties. Maybe they will recommend that it happens, but so most of my clients are not going to one-year contract until this is resolved.
With that in mind, I also asked Mark to separate the cost for assessment and the cost for digitalizing. Because this year we were going to pay that little upcharge for that. I think it was $1,500 or
$2,800.
but the $2,800 for that. I've asked them to separate the two, so then if, in fact, this gets through the governor's budget, that the county can charge us back 95% of the assessment. At least it reduces that by the 26th.
And may I ask for clarification, Mr. Chairman? That's not to say we're not going to do the digitize, you just don't want a part of the assessment contract.
Right, I just wanted it separated out so then they understood that it was, the assessment was $2,600 and the rest was for digitizing.
That's correct.
And you guys are okay with the one-year contract?
Yeah, so we've actually been running on the one-year agreements here for the last 3 years or so.
Okay. Any questions for Marty Keene? Is there a motion?
I move we accept the Tyler Technology contract.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks,
Thank you,
guys,
Mark.
thanks for waiting.
Thank you. See you tomorrow.
And last but not least, authorization to pay the bills. We've got three separate, we'll take three separate ones. First one is $47,189.12 for overpayment of taxes. Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we pay the bills for the overpayment of taxes on that amount.
Second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, bill for Rupert Melke of $5,492.60.
Make a motion we approve the Rupert Milky bill in that amount.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain? Aye. Motion carries. And lastly, $87,753.80.
Make a motion we pay the remaining bills in that amount.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. And lastly, motion to adjourn.
Make the motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. We are adjourned. Stay warm.
Yes,